This episode of Q Point Podcast is pre-recorded, produced and sponsored by Katrina, broker at Next Home Experience.
Different views.
I know your story.
From different Q's.
Incredible job.
He's David Quirk.
You brought it up.
And she's Katrina Quirk.
Imagine.
This is
Q Point.
Now joining us in studio is Maine Assistant House Minority Leader Katrina Smith. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you guys.
You too.
Thanks for coming in.
Let's talk about a couple of bills currently being held until January by the governor, starting with LD 1971. This bill would limit local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE. What are your thoughts on this?
And this is the worst. If you ask any of my colleagues, they'll say that LD 1971 is the worst bill that we've seen. This was such a bad bill passed, by the Democrats in the House and the Senate. They were all in for it in the state house. So basically it makes Maine a sanctuary state and doesn't allow law enforcement to work with immigration officials, with federal officials, in terms of when they stop a car and someone's in that car, they can't ask these people about their immigration status. They can't go ahead and hold these people if they do find out that they're an illegal immigrant or not here legally. And so it really ties the hands of so many of our law enforcement people, our Marine Patrol, our wardens, our sheriffs, our state police. All of them, it's saying you can't cooperate with federal immigration officials. And it's really frightening. We had some amazing testimony on the floor about this. Representative Matt McIntyre, who was actually at 9/11 right in front of the Pentagon. His brother was working in the Pentagon at the time. He was a Secret Service agent. Just talk about the impact of not knowing who's in our country and not being able to follow up on these people that are here that could pose a threat. I was at the Texas border. I saw the hundreds and hundreds of IDs of the people who had crossed the border illegally that we have no idea who they are. And for me on the floor, it was really talking about how Maine people are impacted. I had a woman that lived 10 miles from me, Gloria Casco, who was killed on the turnpike when she was in an accident with a person who was driving. He was an illegal alien. And she's dead, and that affects us on a regular basis. And it's not so cut and dry all the time, but we really need to not tie the hands of our law enforcement. So we are hoping that this goes to the governor's desk and she vetoes this. I'm not sure where that's going to fall. She's in her last term here, and she is the author of the Office of New Americans. So where she stands on this bill, I'm not sure.
They're still going to come to Maine. It's just a fact that if this is signed, the local law enforcement can no longer communicate with them?
Communicate with them, ask just on that front line when they pull somebody over, be able to ask for papers, to ask if they're in this country legally. And then that would set off, finding out that they're here illegally, contacting ICE. So it really stops the process right at the beginning. And Border Patrol will still be doing what they need to do on our borders, but they won't have the ability to work with the local people who might see it on our roads, in our stores, places like that.
Another bill that was held until January is LD 1666 to extend ranked choice voting. Any thoughts on that?
Don't people hate ranked choice voting? That was my speech on the floor. It took about 30 seconds. I stood up and I said, I don't know about you, but the people of Maine hate ranked choice voting, especially my constituents. So right now we have ranked choice voting for federal offices. This time, what it will do is we'll expand ranked choice voting for general and special elections for the office of governor, state senator, and state representative. So, people have a hard enough time. The number one text I get on election day is, how do I fill in these circles? How do I make sure my vote is counted? And I always tell them one thing, and then I feel like I find out after the election that somebody said something else. It's the most mysterious of all voting methods, and people don't trust it. And I think that we've found that in the past, the Democrats have, pushed it forward. They believe that it's the most fair way, but I don't believe it is. And I think it will just open us up to more confusion, open us up to more races that aren't clear that the person should be in office. And I just know that people hate it. So I hate to see it expanded. But right now, unless the governor happens to veto it, we will see it in our next elections.
If you're just tuning in, this is Q Point Podcast. I'm Katrina Quirk, co-hosting with my husband, David Quirk, and we are having a conversation with Assistant House Minority Leader, Katrina Smith.
So speaking of elections, what do you think about us voting on constitutional offices?
Well, I know we tried to put that into having it go to the people to vote for that. That was not passed, unfortunately. I think it was a good idea. I think it would allow people to vet these candidates a lot more than they are. Right now, we've seen, Shanna Bellows, Aaron Fry put in when they're really the favorite of the majority party, the Democrats. They had no specific talents or experience. I mean, Fry was obviously an attorney, but to go ahead and take these statewide offices without the people really having that choice is unfortunate. It's really more of a popularity contest. And as we see now, I mean, honestly, the Secretary of State, Shanna Bellows, has had a lot of screw-ups in her couple-year tenure. And I think that's happened because was she necessarily qualified to be in that office? I don't think so. I think it's much more of a popularity contest. And for not putting it to the people makes us have to again continue that to be the person that the people like the most and will put into that office.
Well, speaking of constitutional officers, have there been any discussions at the State House among legislators related to the recent audit from State Auditor Matt Dunlap's office?
We're certainly concerned about it. I mean, Matt Dunlap has been great. He's been very forthcoming. He's offered to answer any questions that we have about the audit. I think we're very concerned about the no bid process and giving a lot of these contracts to people who haven't have due diligence done on them and just been given a contract. We saw it with the library exchange. We see it with transportation, with our Department of Human Services, just a contract given to someone from out of state typically as well. And that's really concerning. We need to focus on Maine. We need to give them a competitive process where someone is chosen who's the best fit overall and who benefits Maine the most. But I do give credit to Matt Dunlap for the work he's done, and hopefully we can see some changes come from that.
He said it has to be directly from the departments. They're the ones that need to make the changes. Are there any discussions about those changes, or are they speaking about that in Augusta?
They don't tell us a lot.
Okay.
So they could be. I don't know. We don't see many changes in these departments. We haven't seen changes in DHS when there's needed to have changes there for the safety of children, which we've seen continue to plummet with the death of several recent children in DHS custody. I don't see the departments really standing up and making changes on their own. It comes from the top. It comes from Governor Mills. And if she's not demanding it, then it's not going to happen.
What are your thoughts on the new State of Maine $11.6 billion budget?
As we like to call it, the tax and spend budget. We have had an increase of about $400,000 more to what we thought it was going to be. And we really hoped that the governor wasn't going to implement a lot of the tax increases that she did. I sat down with the governor in the governor's mansion one day with Republican leadership. And she said, well, tell us what you want us to do. Tell us what you want us to do. Because she really wanted a bipartisan budget. We said, we don't want our hands on this at all. I said to her, sure, go ahead and take out every climate initiative. Go ahead and take out Office of New Americans, things that she's not going to do. So she really had to dig deep and find the money to make up for all these programs that she's put in over the years. I mean, we have, I think out of all the bills funded, we have like 10 Republicans in that budget, and the rest are Democrat initiatives. We see taxes that just really hit our middle and lower class a lot, just the regular folks of Maine. We see a cigarette tax, $1.50 a pack, streaming tax, 5.5% sales tax on our streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, just things that everyday people have. And here she is saying, you are going to pay for what I want in the government. And I don't think that's fair at all. We have almost a 50-50 split of Republicans and Democrats in the State House and closer, not so close in the Senate. But we represent half of the people of Maine, and they don't want this. They want her to trim instead of asking them to put more money into her budget.
If you're just tuning in, this is Q Point Podcast. I'm Katrina Quirk, co-hosting with my husband, David Quirk, and we are having a conversation with Maine Representative Katrina Smith.
Have we made it too costly to do business in Maine?
Yeah, it's incredibly hard for an employer or a wealthy person to come to Maine and survive at this point. Why would you stay in Maine when you can go to another state where your money isn't taxed to pay for all these initiatives that you might not believe in? Some of these people are our employers. They're people running businesses successfully. Thank goodness they're here, or we wouldn't have jobs for the Maine people. They're supporting our Boys and Girls Clubs. They're supporting our YMCAs. They're supporting nonprofits in our state, domestic abuse, so many things that people give their money to. And now the money's just going to go to the general budget instead. It's too bad. I believe firmly that if we don't support our businesses, Maine is just going to go further down the tubes. And it's unfortunate that they've been targeted.
Let's talk about some of these new real estate taxes, in particular, the new transfer tax.
Yeah, I think you and I both as realtors, Karina, know that real estate is so important to a person's wealth and to their ability to have choices in life, to their ability to retire in a good way. And the real estate transfer tax is looking at, it's currently $2.20 per $500. And they're looking at increasing it to $6. Now, that is directly against the buyer and the seller, because usually they split that amount. So you're looking at a huge increase for people who sell their house over $1 million. Well, that's not that much anymore. I mean, Portland, that's what, a 4-bedroom house probably? Everywhere in Maine, really, houses are much more expensive. We're not in the 1920s anymore where you could buy a house for $150,000. Everybody's looking to sell a house that's probably worth a lot. And it's a direct tax on these people. And it's really unfortunate. I'm a firm believer that home ownership is the path to wealth and to having a good retirement. And this is a direct tax on them. It's really unfortunate.
And Maine now gives mobile home residents first rights to buy. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this was really interesting in this session. There was a real focus on mobile home parks. I don't know. I was going to look up some addresses. I feel like some Democrats must live in them. They found that they were trying to focus on making it easier for people who live in a mobile home park to purchase their mobile home park. So you're looking at putting a 60-day moratorium. If someone wants to put their mobile home park up for sale, they have to offer it to the people in the park first to buy it and to purchase it. And so really, if you wanted to purchase it, you had a buyer outside of the mobile home park, you wanted to sell it, what they're saying is, no, you can't. And that really infringes on your decisions as a property owner. It also makes me worried because we have such a focus on housing. Why won't they go to apartment buildings next? Saying if you want to sell your apartment building, everybody in the building has to approve it. Or your condos, it just makes it really infringing on everyday rights of people who want to take their investment and offload it, to sell it. Sure, maybe the people in the park could buy it, but it has to be the same or basically the same offer as the private person. So who's to say that it's the best offer? You should be able to make that choice yourself.
So explain to me the age verification for online content.
So this is my bill. This bill has actually been put into place in 24 states in the country. It's an online obscenity bill. So if you look at pornography websites in 24 states in the country, you have to verify your age to access those sites. So you have to be over 18 to access those sites. And this bill really only says that. It's not anything that they keep in their system when they verify your information. They go ahead and scan your ID, verify you, and you can go on to the pornography. Just like at Dollar General, when you want to buy some alcohol, they scan your ID and they don't keep that information. But what I found really odd was that on the floor of the House, the Democrats fought against this. In the House, in the Senate, they actually agreed this was a great bill. In the House, even though I said that this is not the same pornography that was in a Playboy in the 1970s, this is content that is violent, which has a lot of implications for mental health for children. And they stood up and they talked about how suddenly some child would not be able to access sex ed information because this law went into place, which is just totally untrue. This had very strict parameters of how much content had to be pornographic on the site so that a child couldn't get to it. It's just a safeguard. We know that pornography is very bad for mental health, not only of adults, but especially of children. And it's so easy for them to stumble onto it. One thing in the way of a child doing that is worth it to me. The Senate said that they would bring it back up in committee. I hope that's going to happen next year. And it just seems so weird that the Democrats couldn't see that this had nothing to do with free speech. This is about children, nothing to do with adults, and that they wouldn't pass that or even talk about it on the floor in a positive way was shocking and too bad. Another thing I found odd was that the Democrats chose to advance legislation that cost taxpayers $6.1 million a year to basically give money to the delivery of family planning services. Pretty much Planned Parenthood that would go directly to. It's just so strange because here we are, and I spoke about this in committee. I said, we have had all these birthing centers closed throughout the state where a woman has to drive possibly an hour to give birth, and they are not funding those. I didn't see a bill that said, Waldo County has closed their maternity ward. What are we going to do? But instead, they looked at just giving $6.1 million directly to one single grantee. So they didn't say for different hospitals throughout the state. They said for Planned Parenthood, we're going to give this money. And it's just, we already have taxpayer-funded abortion. This is just another avenue of money giving to them specifically. And the people of Maine are not being served well by that.
What can you tell us about death with dignity? There's a new shortened waiting period.
Yeah, so death with dignity is a really hard subject. I'm not saying in any way that it isn't. It's very close to a lot of people. But death with dignity is basically assisted suicide. And this was passed into law in the last session that allowed people to go down the path of planning their own death. It had a 17-day waiting period for someone to make that decision before they could receive medication that would end their life. And this time, the bill was put forward to actually limit that down to 2 days' notice. It eventually got amended to 7 days, so that is something. But we just find that they make the choice to make it easier for people to end their life instead of making it more comfortable or working with hospice or having those last minutes. It's frankly messing with God's timeline. Like I said, it's very difficult for people to make a decision on how they feel about this because we all have personal stories. A lot of people had personal stories. I didn't share my personal story, but we all have someone that we've lost that's gone through a difficult end of life. But we just seem to make it easier and easier instead of providing other opportunities for them to have counseling or people to come alongside them. And these things tend to happen quickly in committee and without much fanfare. I'm not really sure how the people feel about it. It's a bipartisan issue, but it's something we have to watch over to make sure that we just don't, I just don't think we should take life for granted and make it too easy for people to make this choice. And it's something that we need to struggle with here in Maine because I don't think that we take life too seriously sometimes.
If you're just tuning in, this is Q Point Podcast. I'm Katrina Quirk, co-hosting with my husband, David Quirk, and we are having a conversation with Assistant House Minority Leader, Katrina Smith. For those that have never been to the State House, can you walk us through what does a day look like there for you?
Sure, absolutely. So we joined together as a Republican caucus. The session's supposed to start at 10 a.m. in the morning. The Republican caucus is meeting at 9 a.m., so we probably get there. I get there at 8. The leads of our committees get there at 8:30 typically, and we talk about what bills they're going to see in their committee that day. And then the whole caucus comes in to speak about what's happening on the calendar that day. So what's supposed to happen in session. We jam that into an hour, have a lot of side discussions about policy and specific votes along the way. And then the bell starts to ring, hopefully around 10 a.m., and we go into the chamber. Now, some of my biggest hits on Facebook have been showing people what the chamber actually looks like from anywhere from 10 to 11:30. And typically what it looks like is the Republicans in their seats are milling about, talking to each other, and no one on the Democrat side. They are in charge of the timeline. They're in charge of, even though that bell has been rung, they're in no hurry to get up there. So we find an empty chamber and we find a day that could have been short, dragged on until the afternoon or the evening. And it really wears on you at times just because you're ready to start work. You know, we have jobs. We know that if you're supposed to be at work at 8 a.m., you show up at 8 a.m. and you start working. Whether they're infighting or it's some tactic to tire us out, they're not showing up until at least 11:30. And then at that point, we go through the calendar. It's a lot of clapping for people who come to visit sometimes, and then getting down to the nuts and bolts. In the last couple of weeks, you see that we ran 5 or 6 hours straight through. And to some people, they say, well, I work 8 hours. 5 isn't that much. But when you're talking about the speaker up there talking extremely fast as they do, and just whipping through vote after vote, it can get pretty exhausting because you want to listen. You don't want something to be snuck in that you're not prepared for. And then, of course, if there were committees happening at the same time, when you break, you go directly to a committee, sometimes not having much time for lunch or water. I try to stay hydrated, but it's really difficult. It's a time of intensity. And we try our best to be there and stay alert. But it's really frustrating when we don't even start on time because our days could be much more. We could have time for some sustenance along the way and really keep our minds sharp. This session, Speaker Fecteau, he did his best, I think, while trying to put forward their legislation and make it so that maybe we were a little off kilter along the way, putting things later at night that are important, watching as our members might have to leave. We all have lives and families. There's unfortunately been a lot of sickness and personal tragedies in our caucus. And so sometimes we get flack for that, but we can't stop life. We can't stop a parent from dying. So we do our best. And the Republican caucus, I give them lots of credit. They are the experts in these fields. I certainly don't know the answers to everything, but I know that I can turn to the people on that committee and they will have an answer. They will understand that legislation. So I give a lot of credit to the Republican caucus and the focus that they have on these bills and just the concern they have for the Maine people in trying to stop this legislation. We haven't been that successful, but it's not because we didn't try. We just don't have the numbers, but we hope to change that in 2026.
So Katrina and I was there a few weeks ago, and I noticed that sometimes they just hammer it and they say under hammer when there was no vote. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Well, that is because it came out of committee with a full vote. So everybody voted for that legislation. So most of the time that just goes under the hammer. It's something, hopefully, if in committee we found that a bill was going to tax the Maine people or cost them more money or wasn't right for them, we would definitely make it a split, divided report, what they call it. So some people were against it. So something that might be coming through unanimous is just a change in language, or, once in a while there are some good bills that come through. So we let them go under the hammer and move them forward. But a lot of times, honestly, we let things go under the hammer too that we just know we won't win. We only have so much time, as we've seen. We got through this session. We got through all the bills we were supposed to, but it was really tight. And so sometimes those just have to go through. And we hope to fight them in another session, either by repealing them or changing them.
When Katrina and I was down there, we see a lot of lobbyists. Do you get pressured quite a bit?
Lobbyists, yes. They are there full time. The people of Maine are not there full time. And some of them, they're there to do a job, whether they believe in really what they're pushing or not. But they're there to push what their clients want them to. And you find that the Energy Committee, you can barely get a seat in their committee because that has some of the largest number of lobbyists for that committee. Not a lot of pressure. I mean, I don't really care what they say because I need to listen to the people, but they do have good information sometimes. But there's a lot of them, and the people of Maine should be aware that sometimes these bills are passed because of the money that's put towards them. Honestly, they don't talk to me that much. They don't talk to the Republican caucus that much because they're over there lobbying the Democrats. They're the ones in charge. So when they want solar tax or something like that to go through, they're going to be lobbying the Democrats the most and pressuring them, pushing them. I don't know what else happens behind the scenes with that, but I do know that they talk to us sometimes, but they're much more focused on the Democrats because they know that's where they're going to get the most bang for their buck.
Before we let you go, what plans do you have this summer?
Well, definitely to relax a little. It's the best time of the year here in Maine, wonderful sun and get out on the lakes. But I'll be spending quite a bit of my time looking for candidates for 2026. We need people who are serious and willing to sit in that seat and stand up and speak for the Maine people. So I'm going to be searching school boards, select boards, people in town, firefighters, anyone that's interested in running in 2026. We need to find those candidates who are going to fill those spots. We were so close this last time to taking majority. There's absolutely no reason, especially with the tax increases and everything we've seen happening this session, that we shouldn't have people who are willing to sacrifice and get in there and fight the good fight and bring Republicans to majority. So that's going to be a lot of my summer and fall.
If there are those listening that are interested, how do they contact you?
Absolutely. You can go on my Facebook page, Representative Katrina Smith, and message me there. And I'll be happy to talk with you, come out and meet with you, talk about what the job really is and if they would fit. And I hope people do. We definitely need them.
Assistant House Minority Leader Katrina Smith. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, and all you do for Maine as well.
We appreciate it. Thank you. You've been listening to Q Point.
Follow us at qpointpodcast.com or on your favorite streaming app.
This is where you can get the news from the people who make the news.
Make sure to join us next time.
We hope you tune in.
Q Point Podcast invites candidates from all parties to join the conversation. The views, information, opinions, and comments expressed during this program do not necessarily represent those of the host, Q Point Podcast, associates, affiliates, and CQRE LLC.
Thanks for being a part of the conversation. Catch every episode at qpointpodcast.com or wherever you stream. Tune in and tell your friends.